Due to the nature of today's show, parental guidance is strongly suggested. Next.
And my mom cried. And the next thing out of her mouth was, "I am so sorry." She said, "I'm sorry that I didn't tell you about what happened to me. Because if I had have, maybe, just maybe, you would have had somebody you could have talked to."
Now, on Shape. As a photographer, I've seen women wish they could change themselves, covering what they thought was imperfect, hiding what was always beautiful. So I created the Shape campaign to help women everywhere, from all walks of life, to find their light through a journey of transformation. With first a photo shoot to see themselves through a new lens, and then a conversation to share their story with the world. This is a celebration of not only beauty, but of every shape, every color, every story, and every soul. I am Raquez Rouse, and this is the Shape campaign. Welcome back to another episode of the Shape campaign. I am your host, Raquez Rouse. And today we're talking about survival. We're talking about overcoming. We're talking about those challenges that have kept us up at night, but now we have a victorious story. Today with me is Arica Quinn. What has this experience been like for you so far?
It has been amazing. Let me just say, when the opportunity came across, and I was like, oh my God, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. I needed that in my life at that moment. And I know we'll go into detail, but it's been a lot.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
That has happened in my life over the last couple of years. And I was at a point where I was feeling a little unworthy, feeling a little unimportant, unseen, like all those things. Mm-hmm. And I needed something. I was looking for something to kind of give me that new life, that new energy, that new thrust, right? And so when this opportunity came and I went in and I read, and see, I'm one of those, I didn't just read the post. I went and did the research. So I went and pulled up and I watched 4, 5, 6 episodes, did all the things. And I was like, this is the absolute must. I don't know how this is going to happen. I really don't have the finances. I don't know where the money's going to come from. I don't know how I'm going to get where I got to get where I got to be, but I'm going to do this. And I put everything, and I went and I talked to my family. I talked to my honey, and I was like, I got to do this. I need to do this for me.
Yes.
Not for anything else. This is to do this for me. Yeah. And when I tell you that after coming and being a part of this, the thrust in myself, I can't even say the doors that are open. I think the doors that are opening is because being a part of this gave me a new life. And that new life that I have has given me the thrust to be like, whatever you want to do, however you want to pivot, whatever you want to shift, do it.
Yes.
You can do it. And it's okay to do it. And so for me, that's what this has been for me. It has been new life for me.
Well, I think we can just close this episode with that. That was good. Thank you. That was amazing. And we're going to get into all of this. Is going to be a great episode, y'all. So y'all stick around. So before we jump into the things, I do want to start out with a challenge. It's an icebreaker, okay?
All right.
So let me grab my instructions here because I want to make sure I give you the right things to say. All right. So this is an icebreaker challenge that is called Beauty Under Pressure, right? You know that old saying, pressure makes diamonds? Mm-hmm. Well, these questions gonna make a diamond right here. Well, you're already a diamond, but whatever is above a diamond, I don't know. All right, so here are the instructions. So, Beauty Under Pressure. You will have 5 minutes to do a full face of makeup using the products in front of you. Eyeshadow, blush, lipstick, and mascara. But here's the twist. You have to keep applying the makeup while answering my questions. No stopping, no pausing, and when the timer runs out, you must drop all products immediately. Sound good enough?
All right.
Once the timer is up, we'll take a look at your final masterpiece and we'll rate how you did.
All right.
Our timer is going to start now. Your first question is, if your life was a sitcom, what would be your theme song?
My life was a sitcom. What would my theme song be? Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue too.
Blend, blend, blend.
Something.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? It's by Shaka Khan. I think it's called something something or something like that.
You sure?
What is the name of that song?
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Maybe we'll come back to you. Next one. What's your favorite beauty hack or secret?
My favorite beauty hack is eyeliner right up under the eyelid before you put your lashes on. It makes it look fuller.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my favorite one.
All right. What are you doing? A smoky eye? What's your inspiration for the day?
Just kind of the natural.
Okay.
Keeping it natural because I got the fro going on.
Okay.
But just the natural look.
All right. Next question. What is one of your strongest childhood memories?
One of my strongest childhood memories.
You better come on. Time is ticking.
Probably going to Cedar Point with my family.
Uh-huh.
We used to do that like every summer.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, I think that is probably...
Don't forget your blush. Now you got blush, lipstick, and mascara. You spend a lot of time on that eyeshadow now. All right. Cedar Point. So where is that at? What state is that?
That is in Sandusky, Ohio.
Sandusky, Ohio. Okay. We'll talk about that. I know you have a history with Ohio. All right. Next question. When was the last time that you cried and why?
Yesterday.
Ooh.
Missing my brother.
Missing your brother. Okay, yes. And my condolences to you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're gonna circle back to our first question. If your life was a sitcom, what song would it be? Be your theme song.
I'm gonna say Every Woman. I'm gonna change it. I'm Every Woman.
I'm Every Woman. Okay. Whitney Houston or Shaka Khan?
Shaka Khan, the original honey.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Next question. What is one of your biggest life regrets?
I don't have any.
Biggest life lessons then?
Be authentically yourself.
All right. Let's see how much time we got. Okay. You're doing pretty well. All right. I'm trying to throw a trick one in there on you. What does the acronym SHAPE represent?
Oh, good Lord. I knew you was going to ask that question. And now I can't even think. Oh, my goodness. This is terrible. And I've been practicing that question because I knew he was going to ask it.
A blush is popping, though. You making that work. Okay. Come on. Give me something. I need a letter. What is that? What's that show? Not Jeopardy. Is it? No. Price is Right. Is it Price is Right with the letters?
No.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
Mm-mm-mm.
Oh, I feel so terrible because I have been practicing this question.
She's been practicing, y'all, and still beauty under pressure, right?
Right.
All right. Next, we'll come back to that one then. If you had a time machine, would you go back in time to change or relive a moment?
Relive a moment.
What moment is that?
The birth of my kids.
Okay.
The birth of
your children. Yeah. Gotcha. How many children do you have?
I have two.
Two. Okay. And actually, I just see that I read that question wrong. It was, would you go back in time to relive a moment or go in the future?
Still back in time.
Still back in time. Okay. Yeah. What's the acronym SHAPE stand for?
Oh my goodness.
Time is ticking.
Terrible.
I'll give you a hint. If something is complex, what's the opposite of complex?
Easy.
Okay, well, what's a synonym of easy?
Simple.
Oh, what? For the L.
Simply.
Okay. And you are a...
Simply.
You are a... What are you?
Woman.
Okay, you're a woman, but
happy.
Bigger than that. What's even... Let's take out the scope a little bit. You're a woman, but...
Simply having... Simply...
You're a being. What kind of being are you?
Human.
Okay. Time's up. Simply human, advocating positivity everywhere. Well, close enough. We'll see how you did. So let's check you out. Look into the camera here. Your cam, okay. So we got some blush, some rouge, some lips, okay. I think you did pretty well. I'm gonna give you 10 stars for that one.
All right.
So we're gonna let you get cleaned up, and then when we come right back, we are gonna jump into all things Miss Arica. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's your guy Quest here. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Shape Campaign podcast. And as a quick reminder, please be sure to check out all of our exclusive interviews from the rest of our Shapecast, as well as the promotional rollout at raquezrouse.com. And for more exclusive behind the scenes stuff that you may have not gotten to see, at my Instagram handle at mr.raquezrouse. That's Mr. Raquez Rouse. Now back to the show.
We are back with the Shape Campaign show. I'm your host, Raquez, and I'm here with Arica Quinn. So, Arica, before the break, we did that amazing icebreaker. What were your thoughts about that?
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really was. And I liked it because a lot of times that's how life is. We are under pressure, and we have to be able to perform under pressure, no matter what that is. So I think it was a good challenge.
Awesome. Score for me, Amy. So you are from Toledo, Ohio. Yes. Or born in Toledo, Ohio.
Actually born in Inkster.
Where's that?
Inkster, Michigan is just outside of Detroit.
Okay.
So when people say you ain't from Michigan and I say, but I was born in Inkster, they're like, okay, yeah, you are, because if you blink, you'll miss it. So you have to be from.
Got it.
You have to be from Detroit to know where Inkster is.
Okay. So, you were born in Inkster.
Yes.
When did you move to Ohio?
So my parents were both born and raised in Ohio.
Okay.
And so when they got married, they were in Ohio, and then they moved to Inkster, Michigan. And that's where I was born.
Okay.
And then 2 years after I was born, they got a divorce, and my mom packed me and her up and moved us to Colorado, which is where I was raised for the majority of my life.
So your parents are from Ohio. Once you were born, you were moved to Inkster. Yes.
You
were born in Inkster,
and
they moved to
Colorado. I moved to Colorado.
My mom moved to
Colorado.
A lot of moving. Okay.
Yes.
So your stomping grounds are in Colorado.
Yes.
And which part of Colorado?
I grew up between Aurora and Denver. So just depending on where we were living at the time, I was either in Aurora or I was in Denver. So
and I'm curious, what's the black demographic out there?
It's funny because a lot of people go, there's black people in Colorado. Yeah, there's a lot of us out there.
Okay.
There really is. There's a lot of us out there. And we're not hidden. But it's a different culture in Colorado than like East Coast or even the West Coast, or even being here in the South. I hate to say it, but a lot of times it can be very bougie, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
In Colorado, it's one of those states that people from all over come to, right? And
I think they call that a transient place, right?
Yeah,
transient.
But you can lose who you are sometimes in Colorado. Because it is very its own, like Colorado is literally its own culture. Like even me leaving from there and coming here, it was a bit of a culture shock coming here, believe it or not.
Here being
in coming to Tennessee, moving to Tennessee.
Okay.
Right. It was a bit of a culture shock just in the way my community interacts with each other versus how they interacted in Colorado. Because sometimes, though anywhere you go, you have cliques, right? You have certain groups that hang together. But what I found the difference is in Colorado, the cliques are real cliquish, is what I discovered after leaving that environment.
Okay.
And I don't mean to say that to bash, because I loved Colorado. It's where I grew up. I love the people, the friendships that I made there, but you can feel the difference in.
Now you say your community.
Mhm.
So what does that mean?
Meaning the Black community.
The Black community.
My
Okay.
community of people.
Gotcha. But I thought you said there were Black people in.
There is.
Okay.
What I'm saying is they're very cliquish.
Oh. So if you're not one of them, if you're not from there natively, you're like an outsider?
First coming in, but then it's more like if you don't fit with how they think you should walk, talk, dress, act, present yourself, kind of thing, you might get kind of pushed aside from certain groups.
Yeah.
Or not be invited to certain things because they don't feel like you fit the mode.
Let me ask this straight out. So is it, because what I'm picking up based on the way you're describing it, is it almost like a whitewashing kind of, when you say bougie, like if you're not whitewashed, for lack of a better term, but we're just gonna talk straight. This is a straight show. We're not gonna sugarcoat nothing.
Exactly. That's it.
Then you are like inferior.
Kind of.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. If you don't play the role, right? So what you learn how to do, unfortunately, which I learned how to do very well in Colorado, is code switch.
But I think as Black people, we do that anyway.
But you really learn it in Colorado because not only do you have to code switch for people who are non-Black, you got to code switch for your own folk, which is a shame to have to say. But to get in certain circles, I had to code switch. I had to play the part. I had to put on a different face.
Can you give me a specific example of code switching in that environment?
So, for example, I wanted to go to this gala event. Don't ask me what the name of it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was this real high society, high class, whatever, gala event that I wanted to go to. And a friend of mine was like, hey, you want to go with me? Da-da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, I would love to go. And da-da-da-da-da. So like 2 weeks before, she was like, what you wearing to the gala? And I was like, oh, I think I'm going to wear this. She literally was like, we got to go shopping. Because this particular event, you have to look a certain way. You have to da-da-da-da-da. So it's like, oh, one of those. Okay. So I was like, no, we don't got to go shopping. I got something that I could wear in my closet. So I went from, I was going to wear this really A-line cut gown, real flowy, real pretty, to this more fitted, like black tie affair type look with the whole updo, lashes, but the real short lashes and the fresh, simple makeup look with the pretty blingy earring, looking like I had more money than I could ever imagine. Kind of look. And so even the way that I walked, the way that I sat at the table, make sure, that your hands were just so right. And the way that I held conversation with the people around me and the way that I cut my food and I ate, like all of those things. So I literally code switched. I had to become this prim, over the top proper, because unfortunately as Black people, we got to be over the top in everything we do anyway. So then when you have me code switch and I got to be over the top, I was over the top.
Now
I was diva all the way.
To me that would become exhausting. So, and you don't strike me as the type of person to play the game, so to speak, but was that more of you just adapting to your environment because that's where you were at the time, or is that something you really were invested in doing?
So for this particular event, I played the game. I ain't gonna lie, because there were some heavy hitters at this game that I was trying to knock elbows with. So I knew I had to bring this certain level to be able to have conversations in certain spaces. Now, I'm the kind of person that once I've rubbed my elbows and you crack the door for me to come in, you're gonna get the real me. The code switching is off. I played the game so that I could get to know you and you to get to know me. Now you really get to know me. So a lot of times, yes, exhausting, but sometimes it's worth the switch.
So your parents divorced at the age of 2. You grew up without your father in your life. And he was a correctional officer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was that dynamic like with your mom being did you have a stepfather?
No, so I won't say I totally grew up without my father in my life. He wasn't, because we were in Colorado, he was in Ohio. So as a kid, I would go back home every summer and be with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And so when I was there, I was with my dad. So I knew my dad very well, my other brothers and sisters, my cousins, aunts, uncles, all of that. They are, the Quinn side of the family runs deep, thick, deep, right? And so I was a part of that growing up. Mm-hmm. There was a moment where my father and I became estranged a little bit because of just situations where he took other people's word over my word kind of thing. And I was just like, okay, dude, you know, I had a moment. And I think all kids kind of go through that moment where you like, I'm good on you right now.
Other people's words is like, as far as what exactly?
Like, I can't smoke. Okay. If I smoke a cigarette, I'm going to die. If I smoke weed, I'm going to die. Okay. Mm-hmm. I cannot smoke. Mm-hmm. So he was told that I had been smoking cigarettes and he believed what he was told versus sitting back and going, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. No, my daughter ain't smoking because if she smokes, she gonna die. Mm-hmm. And so it was things like that. And I was like, okay, I'm good on you for a minute.
What age were you when this?
When this incident, I was about 17.
17, okay.
I was about 17 years old. And I didn't talk to my dad for a good little minute. And then
behind cigarettes, so was he like a religious man or something? Or was it just because you weren't?
It was just, I think I was just at that, you know, like I said, I was 17. I was trying to discover who I was, understand who I was. Mm-hmm. And I was at that point at 17 where I was like, I ain't got time for, okay, you go do you. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go do me. Mm-hmm. And then if we come back together, great. That was just my attitude. Mm-hmm. Was it the best attitude to have? Probably not. But at 17 at that time, that's where Arica was, right? And so it really didn't even have anything. It was just like, I don't got time for that. I just don't. And I'm just not going to deal with it. That's just where I was at. And so we were estranged for a few years. And then what ended up happening was he ended up having a massive heart attack. And he basically told the family, I'm done if I don't get to see Arica. Mm-hmm. And so they did everything they could to make sure I could get to him. And I ended up coming home and walked into the room, and my dad, I'm going to set the picture because some people be like, I can't believe you did that. But so I walk into the room, there's my dad. He's laying in the bed. He just came out of open heart surgery. He had a 5 bypass, which is the highest extent of a surgery you could have. He's open, all the things, and he's laying there, and I come in and I walk in and I look, and I just basically was like, can I have a minute with my dad alone? And they were like, okay. So everybody gets up and leaves. And I sat down and I looked at my dad and I grabbed him by his hand and I said, I have a lot I need to say to you. And it's going to be hard for you to hear it as hard as it is for me to say it. And I basically told him, this is what you have done to me in my life. This is how what you have done has either positively or negatively affected me. And I ran it down from the time when I was 4 years old, sitting on the porch, waiting for you to show up the whole day till the sun went down and you never showed up. From the time when you believed that I was doing things because other people told you I was, instead of coming and talking to me about it, you just went along with everybody else. When I was like, all the things when I tell you, I read him the riot act from the beginning to the end. But let me tell you, when I finished, I said, the only reason why I did this now is because you're laying in the bed. You have to look at me face to face in my eye. You cannot hide behind a text. You cannot hide behind a telephone, and you ain't got nowhere to run. So we gonna deal with this, and we gonna deal with it good. And that's exactly what I did at that moment. And when I tell you from that moment on, the relationship I had with my dad, I'm a daddy's girl for life after that moment.
Now, that's powerful. Do you feel that moment he was able to receive it because of his near death status? Or do you feel like it was more of the way you asserted yourself was a way that he'd never seen before?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the fact that he was in a state where this could be it,
Mm-hmm.
but also like, because even the look on his face was like, ah! you know that you don't talk to your daddy like, you know how parents are, you know, you know, that kind of, but at the same time, you could see the proudness in him. Because I think it showed him that though it may have slowed me down,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't going to halt me. And from that moment on, I remember him telling me, he looked at me and he said, thank you. He said, thank you for being honest with me. And he said, thank you for showing me that I don't have to worry about anything ever pulling you down. You are always going to rise above and go beyond. He said, you showed me that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about this child when it comes to that. And so I think it was a combination of both of those things. And like I said, from that moment on, there was nothing you could say to me about that man. Nothing. And I have to give my mom credit because my mom never bad talked my dad, never bashed my dad, never did any of those things. And I say that to any parent out there listening to me now. Allow your child to find out about that other parent on their own. Let them make the assessment. Let them come to the conclusion. Don't badmouth them. They will show who they are. My dad showed me who he was, and I made the choice to go to him and say, now, you gonna hear me and we can fix this, or you gonna say you don't want to fix it? And whichever you decide, bro, that's on you, but I'm gonna do my part. And we ended up having the most beautiful, loving father-daughter relationship ever. He called me until he passed. I was his number one. His number one daughter, the first child to give him a grandchild, the first child to graduate from college, the first, like, I was his everything. I was known as the number one. And I joke with my brothers and sisters about that all the time. I don't care what you say, I'm number one. So.
Now, when did he pass away?
He passed away in 2017.
Okay.
He actually passed away 3 days before my grandson, which would have been his first great grandchild, was born. And I tell people all the time, my grandson was 3 days late because my daddy held on to him in heaven for 3 days and loved on
That's a beautiful way to look at that.
Loved on his great grandchild before he got to be here. So
absolutely. Now, your mom, you said she didn't badmouth him. So what role did your mom play in your life?
My mom, oh my God, that was my ace in the hole, my ride or die. We were so close that for years, well into my 20s, people thought she was my older sister. That's how close we were. People who know me and know my mom, if you saw me, you saw her. If you saw her, you saw me. I worked with her in ministry. I mean, we were inseparable. People tell me all the time, how in the world do you have a relationship with your mother like that? And to me, I didn't think it was abnormal to have a relationship that tight and that close with your mom. But we were inseparable. That was my girl. You're gonna make me cry. That was my girl. She was my everything. She was my everything. She brought life to me and I brought life to her. And so there was not a day that we did not talk. Sometimes we talk 2, 3, 4 times a day. We could be in the same house and she could be in her room and I could be in my room. And because neither one of us wanted to really get up, we would call each other on the phone to talk to talk on the phone in the same house. Like, and if a day went by and she didn't hear from me, or I didn't hear from her, or we were sending out the FBI squad. Where you at? What you doing? Like, that was our relationship. We were super, 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 super tight.
Now, is your mom still alive?
She is not.
Okay.
She is not. And her and my dad were best friends. They were but when I tell you best friends, they were best friends. And I think that had a lot to do with the fact of why she never badmouthed him. Because even though they had their situation, and even though they went, she knew my dad was not a bad dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so she wasn't going to make him to be this monster that he was not. And sometimes we will make people be a monster when they're really not a monster.
Now, when did your mom pass away?
My mom passed away in 2022. September 13th, 2022. That was a very hard year because in June 24th, I found out that my brother had been shot and murdered. Being a good Samaritan, my brother didn't know strangers. If he met you and 2 hours later, you would be at his house and he'd be talking about, oh, this my homeboy, and don't even know you from a can of paint drying on a wall. But that was my brother, and he was helping someone else, and the situation turned bad, and my brother ended up losing his life. And so literally 4 months later, in September, my mom passed. And I'll tell people all the time, it wasn't medical. My mom died of a broken heart.
A broken heart.
I believe if my brother had died any other way, my mom would still be here today.
My condolences to you, absolutely, for your dad, your brother, and your mom, and your brother, Lewis. He was 48. And can you talk about what happened in that instance?
He, and this is just from what I know from the trial and all of those things. He literally went to help a friend of his get his belongings from his ex-girlfriend, and the new boyfriend was there. They had already had, her and the new boyfriend had already had an incident earlier that day. He was there. He didn't like my brother's friend. My brother's friend didn't like him. They got into an altercation. After the altercation kind of subsided, they were standing outside waiting. She tells him it's okay for him to come in and get his stuff. My brother walks in behind him. The guy basically comes out the room and opens fire and shot and killed my brother.
Senseless violence.
Yep. So that.
Now, I want to stay on this for a little bit because it's a lot. Talk me through and walk me through your journey of dealing with a heart-daggering death like that, loss like that, and then your mom 4 months later. How do you grieve? What's your process? And are you still grieving?
I'm still grieving. I literally, because I had to step in and be there for my mom and be there for my nieces and my great nieces and my nephew because of the loss of their father. I really haven't truly grieved my brother yet. I really, really have not.
And I understand you're now taking care of his kids, or you're helping out with his kids?
I became the matriarch of the family. It was not the job that I was ready to sign up for, but I'm the one that's left. And so I am there to be their support system. They're grown, but I'm there to be their support system. If they need to talk to somebody, if they need just to make sure they're okay, if they're having trouble with their kid, like I'm just the matriarch. I'm just there to be a guiding support to them and hoping that whatever they see me doing as I move forward through this whole process is an encouragement and an uplift for them. And they have someone that they can look to and go, okay, if Auntie can keep moving, we can keep moving. If Auntie can do this, we can do this. And so I didn't get a chance to grieve over my brother, really. Like I had the initial shock, the initial tears, but I've not really dealt with his death yet. Because I had to step in and be there for my mother. And then to turn around and lose my mother. And I know might sound crazy the way I say this, but mom trumped brother every time. Right? And so even in death, mom has been the focus for me. Dealing with her loss has been the greatest of the two impacts for me. Not that what happened to my brother, I diminished by any means, but that was mom. Right? And so I've been dealing with the grief and the loss of mom for the past 3 years.
And what age was your mom? You said that she wasn't sick or anything, right?
She was sick.
Okay.
She did have some sickness and things going on, but I believe it's the loss of my brother that caused her to go downhill, even physically and health-wise, because of her broken heart. Because when you have to rehash and keep telling the story over and over and over and over and over again, and not have an out, right? Not have a way that you can really release that, because every time you think you release it, then somebody's asking what happened, and then you're telling the story over again. And so I truly believe it was a broken heart that took my mother from me.
What age was she?
She had just celebrated her 75th birthday in June. Had just celebrated her 75th birthday. And so, again, it's her death. It's that experience of losing her that has been at the forefront of my grief. I am slowly beginning the process of grieving over the loss of my brother.
Your brother. Yeah. Wow. Again, my condolences to you. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about your personal pain, and that's personal pain, but also some deeper things that you went through as a child. So we'll be right back. People ask me all the time, Raquez, what is the SHAPE campaign? What is SHAPE? And to me, SHAPE is an acronym. It represents simply human advocating positivity everywhere. I started SHAPE to celebrate the beauty of women, their profundity, their excellence, and to hear their stories. Oftentimes we see a beautiful face, but we don't know the story behind the person. So I want you to come along with me on this journey to learn about these beautiful women. These women that have gone through pain and turned it into passion and now into power. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, and follow me on all of my social media at mr.raquezrouse. We'll see you later. So we are back. I'm Raquez with the SHAPE campaign. I'm here with Arica Quinn. So Arica, before the break, we were discussing some losses that you had in your life. And I understand that you went through some trauma as a child. I'm going to let you talk about that. And
how raw you want me to be?
Be as authentic as you want to be.
Okay. Yeah. I went through a lot as a child. I actually wrote a book, my memoir, entitled You Know My Name, But Not My Story. Because there's a lot of people who know me, but really don't know me, or who knew me, but really that's the way.
That book right here.
They really don't know, like really don't really understand what I went through.
Yeah.
I was very good at wearing the smile when I was tore up on the inside. Very, very good at it. The smile became my daily mask. And just to give you a little background, it all started when I was about 4 years old. My mom was a single mom. She was going to school and working, and we would go to stay at a babysitter's house. And this particular babysitter had a son who had some mental challenges, and he would come in, because we would stay overnight. He would come into the room and he would literally lift me up out of the crib that me and my little brother were sleeping in, and lay me on the floor and attempt to have sex with me. And at 4 years old, all I knew is something was scary. So it was that natural instinct to fight. But what he would do is he would pinch me all over my body, trying to get me to release so that he literally could penetrate me. And he
release. What do you mean by that? Release.
He would pinch me to try to get me to stop fighting.
Okay.
So that he would have a better chance of being able to sexually abuse me.
Gotcha.
And my mom would come, but by the time my mom would get there, because as you know, you pinch a Black person, we don't bruise, right? We don't show up the different colors like my white brothers and sisters do. You know what I'm saying? And so by the time my mom would come pick me up, you wouldn't notice anything. But at 4 years old, I don't know how to say that this is what's happening to me.
Yeah.
I don't even understand what's happening to me at that time, right? And so that's where everything began for me. And then moving forward from the age of 7 to the age 12, I was incest by uncle. He threatened me that if I said anything to anybody, that he would not only kill my aunt, but he would also kill my mother. And to sit in front of a man between the ages of 7 and 12 and watch him freebase in front of you. If y'all don't know what that means, that's cooking down cocaine so that you can take it in a pipe and smoke it. When he said he'd kill, to me, he meant what he said, because who in the world would do that in front of a child and not follow through with anything that they say they're going to do? So he would take me on motorcycle rides to different locations. And it started out with him touching me. And then it went to him putting his private parts in my mouth. And then it went to him doing sexual intercourse on me from the time I was 7 to 12 years old.
And I have here that you say that he would go to your aunt was a realtor, and he would take you to empty homes and abuse you.
Yep. That I can, to this day, I could pretty much picture the house. I can still smell the smells. And things like that. So though I'm working through it, though I've come a long way of working through that, you never forget. It's what you do with what you remember that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And so I went through that, and then I get into high school and I get raped by the high school football jock.
Well, hold on. I want to pause real quick. We're going to come back to that part, but I want to circle back to you as your child. So first molested by your family member, relative, or 4 years. Babysitter, 4 years old. Then your great uncle, 7 through 12, molested. And how, I'm just wondering, as an adult with your children, what were you overprotective? Were you kind of like never let them go anywhere? How did that show up? There has to be something that shows up in that space.
With my first child, I don't think I was protective enough because he ended up having a bad experience. But I think I was more in my parenting style. I think I went from being the parent to the best friend, which I don't think was necessarily good either. So where there were probably areas, especially with my oldest son, that I should have been more strict, more put my foot down more that I was more lackadaisical, more giving, more less stringent in areas in raising him. And I think it negatively affected him. And so it's things now that he's got to work through as an adult because I didn't do that. And so, but for me, the things that I did in my life as an adult until I went through my healing process, which I know we're going to get to, so I don't want to jump too far ahead, was normal living for me, but it really wasn't normal. It was horrible living, but I didn't know that at the time. So things that I did to myself, things that I, the way I raised my kids, the way I dealt with relationships, just a whole bunch of stuff was funky. But I didn't know it was funky until I went through my healing process.
Okay, gotcha.
And so, you know, I knew enough when I was going through the abuse as a child. I knew enough not to allow it to happen to my brother because I was asked. my uncle literally was like, I'll pay you X amount of dollars if you let me watch you and your brother have sex.
Okay, pause. Hold on. Because it's a lot of stuff going on. So not only was your uncle doing this to you, he was also commissioning you to do this with your brother?
Yes.
And your brother was how old? Older or younger?
No, younger.
So now you're assaulting
No, he wants me to.
But I got you. I'm just saying now he's causing that to happen to him.
He wants to perpetuate onto my brother. And I had enough sense to know.
Right.
You can do whatever you want to me.
Right.
But you will not bring my brother into this. And thank God, as far as I know, nothing ever transpired in that area between him and my brother, because I was on him like.
Now, he wanted you to do this with you. He was going to pay you to do this with your. Did you do it?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
And I know people that are listening or watching, they're wondering, did your aunt know? Did she really not know?
She really did not know. Mm-hmm. She really did.
So either he was that good of a liar, or either they just weren't that close as a married couple.
No, he was that good.
Okay.
Nobody knew. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew. Mm-hmm. And I didn't let anybody know, because again, this man threatened to take out my aunt, my mama, my cousins, my brother, and watching him do the things that he did in front of me, I believed when he said, I'll kill him, he meant I'll kill them. Now
I know. So this was your mom's sister?
Her aunt. So my great aunt.
Your great aunt. Okay. Now I know there was someone though in your life that knew something wasn't right, and they were kind of like your advocate. Was there someone at church or something that
This is what started my process of healing as an adult.
Gotcha.
It was a church member. It was actually her and two other ladies had come to my house to study because they were getting ready to take their ordination exam. My mom was a pastor at the time. They were getting ready to take her ordination exam so they would be ordained in the ministry. And they came to my house because I was going to quiz them, test them, so they could be ready for their exam. And what ended up happening was we began to open up in prayer. And during prayer, Pastor Mary Lucidorus, I'm going to say her name out loud because she's the one who started my journey. She grabbed my hands and she said, the little girl in you is terrified. And I just kind of looked at her like, what? She's like, the little girl in you is terrified. The little girl in you has been abused, has been raped. Like all the things that I ain't never told not a soul. She just began to bring to the surface, and I'm just looking at her like, and that was, you know how people say they have these aha moments with God where you know he real. That was one of those moments for me because I hadn't told anybody. My mama didn't even know. I hadn't told anybody. I'm 33 years old. I've not told a soul. And she is literally telling me the things that had happened to me as a child.
Why would God allow a child to go through that? And for someone now that it's way past the time when it happened to be able to all of a sudden know about it. But in the moment, no one knew. No one had any inclination. What would be your response to that?
I had the same question. Right? I've had the same question. God, why? Why? And you know what the answer was I got? Why not you? Because who's going to be able to tell it and help somebody like you? What I've come to learn is the good, the bad, and the ugly. When the word says it all works together for the good of them who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. If I didn't go through nothing, how could I help somebody else? There are other women, there are other young ladies who are going through or have been through what I've been through. That was designed for me to walk through so that I could reach down, grab a hold of them and tell them you're not alone. Tell them you can get through this. Show them you can walk this out. You don't have to stay. Your trauma does not define who you are. Your trauma pushes you to where God wants you to be. And yes, was my trauma horrific? But it's no different than somebody who deals with the trauma of being raised in a home with an alcoholic, abusive parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than being raised in a home or being someone who's coming off of drugs. Trauma is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Is trauma, is trauma, is trauma. I don't care how it happens. We have all, if everybody stop for 5 seconds, close their eyes, everybody listening to me and watching can find a moment of trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, did you overcome it? Or are you letting it consume you? I decided to overcome mine because trauma can be transferred or transformed. And I made my trauma become transformative so that I can help transform somebody else. And so my answer is, why would God allow? If there's no pain, you don't understand joy. If there's no tears and sorrow, you don't understand happiness. Again, we all deal with some form of horrific trauma in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you do with it that makes the difference. And again, God said to me, why not you? Because you can handle it.
Do you believe that although trauma is universal, the idea of trauma, do you believe that everyone's healing from trauma is the same way as
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The way I had to go through my healing is not the same way you would go through yours. It's not the same way whoever's listening to me right now is going to go through. Nobody's healing process is the same. And nobody's healing process is the same length. Some people, I tell people, it's like some people are like an apple, right? You take a big chunk out of it, and all of a sudden it's like everything just opens up for them. And I'm not the apple. I'm the onion. I'm not, you peel an onion, and I don't know if people realize this. Let me tell you how deep this is. When I say that I am like an onion, I get peeled layer by layer. When you get an onion and you peel that first layer off, you get the crunchy stuff off, right? Well, if you ever notice, another layer comes off, right? And it's real thick. And you're like, dang, I'm losing half the onion. Well, that thick part, if you really pull it, you can see through the actual layer. So when I say he peels me like an onion layer, I'm talking about all the way down to that membrane. An onion is just a stack of membrane on top of membrane, on top of membrane, on top of membrane, on top of membrane, till you get this thick onion. But each layer is paper see-through thin. And so that's me. So my journey, my overcoming trauma, my processes take a little bit longer than others. The important thing is that I complete the journey. That's the important thing. And going through trauma and transforming from trauma, I tell people all the time, it is not a destiny. There's no final destination to this thing. It is a journey, because once I transform in one area, lo and behold, here comes the next area I got to transform in. It doesn't stop. But what it does is when I keep going, I get better at each transformation. And each transformation takes a little less time because I've learned the skills from over here that now I can adapt over here. And I just keep building, and it causes me to build me.
Gotcha. Now, fast forwarding a little bit to when you got into high school, you went through another traumatic sexual assault. Talk about that.
I was date raped by the high school football jock. And did I tell anybody? I know y'all thinking, oh, I know she told somebody this. I did not, because I hadn't learned how to do that. I never learned how to go and talk to somebody. Not only was it because of that, but come on, in high school, who gonna believe me if I say the jock raped me? Who gonna believe me? In my eyes, absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody was going to believe me if I said that, because he was everybody's boy, right? He was every teacher's boy. He was the principal's boy. He was the football coach's boy. He was an all-star player. So he did football, he did baseball, he did basketball, and he ran track. And he was all-star and everything. Who was going to believe me if I told them that this is what happened?
Mm-hmm.
To me, absolutely nobody. So now you've got 4-year-old me, you've got preteen me, and now you got teenage me in this one little body suffering from all this trauma, carrying all this around, and then wondering why it was hard for me to make friends. Wondering why I did not feel beautiful. Wondering why I felt worthless. And you wonder why I did probably stuff that I normally otherwise wouldn't do. Hung out with the wrong crowds. Tried to smoke. That's how I found out I was allergic and I was going to die. Tried to smoke. Tried to, and different things like that. Because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle what I was living with. I just knew I had to keep living. And so again, the smile became my mask. And I could be dying on the inside, but you would never know because my smile, this same smile, it's not a mask no more. This is genuine. This is like real life Arica smile now. But this same pretty gleaming smile was the same smile I could smile right in your face. And I had just stopped crying 10 minutes ago.
We'll be right back. Be sure to join our YouTube family at The Shape Campaign. Comment, like, and subscribe. We'll see you later. Holla. All right, we're back. I'm Raquez with The Shape Campaign. I'm here with Arica Quinn. So, Arica, I wanted to highlight something that an excerpt from your memoir, You Know My Name, But Not My Story. You said, I was wild. I mean, I had one for Monday, one for Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday. You get the picture. I had a man or 2 for every night of the week. The same 5 or 6 guys on a regular basis. And they all believed they were the only one. And you described going into a sexual spiral. And before we went for break, you talked about the destructive ways that you adapted as a result of your trauma. Tell me about that.
I was a sexoholic. If you've seen the movie, She Gotta Have It, to this day, I believe Spike Lee wrote that movie just for me. I was her. I had one that would get my hair done, one that would get my nails done, one that would pay the rent, one that would buy me the new outfit, one that kept my car gassed up, one that let me use their car. Like, whatever I need. And what ended up happening was because I did not feel beautiful, but I knew they liked the booty, I let that become my thrust. Not know me for my heart, not know me for my mind, not know me for who I really am. But if you like what you see, I knew how to dress just right to make sure your eyes looked at me when I walked through the room. I knew how to shake it just enough to get you to go, I think I want to tap that. And I'd let you tap it, but I didn't let you tap it without me knowing I was going to get something out the tapping. That was the thing. So I became very, very good at, yeah, you can have this, but this is what you're going to give me. You ain't got to worry. Married men, single men. I've even been with some gay men. Listen, I was wild. And so I did. What ended up happening for me were some people end up going through some trauma like that and they become alcoholics, or they go through some trauma like that and they become hooked on drugs, or they go through it and they become lesbians, or they become homosexual, or they become these things. I became a sexaholic. And literally, any night of the week, I pick up my phone and be like, I don't know if you've seen the comedy special with Bill Bellamy, and he got the Rolodex, and he goes, and he pulls out the card and he dials the number and he goes, hey, this Bill. That was, hey, this is Arica. What you doing tonight? Like literally, I became a sexoholic. When I tell you that God will keep you, I ain't never had AIDS. I don't have AIDS.
HIV.
HIV. HIV. I don't have, I didn't have, like sexual, like the things that should have happened to me, right? The typical things that when you are being careless should happen to you didn't happen to me. I know people may not believe it, but I know it's because God, even in the midst, he kept me. Because I chose to put myself in that situation. I chose to do those things. I made that choice, but I made those choices again because I had stinking thinking. I thought this is what you do.
Now I know that you had an STD scare. Talk about that.
I did. I had that was probably the moment that I said, okay, maybe what I'm doing might not be the best thing to be doing. So we need to check yourself a little bit before you wreck yourself. I found out that a person that I had sex with tested positive for HIV. And to get that phone call, and literally this was the phone call. Hello? Hey, hon, what's up? Nothing? What's going on? Well, I just came from the doctors. Okay, and I just got tested. It came back that I have HIV. You have what? I have HIV, so you might want to go get tested. I just wanted to let you know. Click. That was the whole conversation. So I'm left sitting in this room going, what? I could have what? And so I went to the doctors. I got tested. Nothing. But as you know, it can sit for 14 years. So 14 years later, from that day, I went and got retested. I get retested every single year now because of that one moment of being in a life filled with trauma and reacting in such a negative way. I get tested every year. Every year. And thank God, every year I've gotten tested, it has come back that it is negative and I do not have it. But that is now something that I have to live with on a daily basis. Because what if one time I go get tested and it comes back and says, it's there. Even though I'm not doing anything. But when you learn, I'm a researcher, so I go and I dig. Okay, so what does this mean if I test it and it's not showing up? And what does this look like? And And when you learn that certain strains can lay dormant for years before it will surface, right? So now that's a torch I have to carry and I have to bear. But thank God, like I said, not near time. And I'm just grateful to God for that, because in my moment of unclarity, I made unclear decisions. And I could have had a whole lot of them scares and a whole lot of different things happening that didn't, again, because I believe God, even in the midst of me making those decisions, kept his hand on me so that I could sit right here, right now, tell my story, and hopefully be an encouraging person, somebody that's listening, and be that voice that some people just don't know how to say it for themselves. and they can be listening to this and tap the person next to them and go, that's what I've been trying to say. That's me. That's it. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Let me be your voice. I'm here for it.
And I'll even add on to that by saying now that you get tested every year, and actually some people should go twice a year. I don't think there's any harm with that. I think it's anything, something that you probably could have been doing all along the way anyway. So you gain like it was like a healthy scare because it scared you enough to steer you right, but it didn't scare you enough to do too much damage, you know? So I think it's kind of like it all worked out for you. Absolutely. So let's talk about that healing journey. What was that process? So the minister at the church, she kind of planted the seed and started it. And how did it go from there?
So the first thing I did was after they left, I picked up the phone and I called my mother. And I said, Mom, I have something I need to tell you. And I just opened up my mouth and it just literally, I hate to say this, but I literally just vomited all over my poor mama with everything that had happened to me. And when I tell you, I can remember every detail. I can remember the smells. I can remember everything, like everything. And I began to just pour all that out on my poor mama. And people ask me all the time, well, what did your mom say? And my mom cried. And the next thing out of her mouth was, I am so sorry. She said, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you about what happened to me. Because if I had of, maybe, just maybe, you would have had somebody you could have talked to. Those were my mom's words. And you talk about Lord. So we literally are on the phone for 3 hours, going back and forth, talking about each other's experiences. I didn't know my mom had been raped. I didn't know that the uncle who did what he did to me, tried to get my mom to prostitute. Like all the stuff that I did. But when I tell you the healing that began in that moment for the both of us, because she ain't never told nobody what she had been through. For her to share with me where she was, and for me to share where you talk about a moment of clarity. And it was at that moment that a mind shift in my own self changed, because I used to be one of those girls that would see these women. Remember when the Me Too movement started and all these women in their 40s and 50s started coming out of this person did that and this. Now, some of them was lying. And when you've been through and you know what the truth looked like, you can tell when somebody getting up saying somebody did something that really didn't happen versus no, that's legit. That is what happened, right? But when that whole movement came, and I was one of those too that sat back and be like, you 50 years old. Why are you just now saying something? Until I became the 33-year-old.
Yeah.
Who had to walk through it.
Do you feel like your mom sharing that information with you, it sounds like it was like a key that unlocked something for you?
It was a major, because for the first time, I had my waiting to exhale moment. For the first time in that particular area of trauma in my life, I finally went, right? I finally had that moment. And that only unlocked the doors for me to then go, we're not shutting down from this time. Now let's move forward. Let's dig deep and let's figure out how we work through this. And so I started a process journey, a 5-year journey. 5 years it took me to find the right therapist. Let me say this. Number one, going to therapy does not mean you're crazy. It means you're smart enough to know you can't do this on your own. Number two, One therapist does not fit all. So if you go through 4, 5, 6, 7 different therapists till you get the therapist to work, you go through 4, 5, 6, 7 different therapists until you find the therapist that works for you. Because all therapists are not the same. So I went on this journey for 5 years. And the reason I knew that this particular woman was the therapist for me was because when I walked into her office and we sat down, she said right off the bat, I need to tell you something. I'm a licensed therapist. I have a board of ethics that I have to follow, which means I can only take you on this journey so far. There's going to be deep stuff that you're going to have to deal with. I can't cross that line because I'll lose my license. What I need you to do is I need you to go find you a life coach because they're not bound by a board of ethics. And that life coach is going to be able to go with you into the deeper areas of your life that I can't go into, right? So that blew me away because I had never heard of anything. I didn't even know what a life coach was. So of course, here I go. You know me, here I'm Googling again. What is a life coach, right? So I go on this journey for about 3 weeks and I end up finding this amazing woman to be my life coach. And I ended up allowing her to be in contact with my therapist. So basically how this ended up working for me. This worked for me. Will this work for everybody? No. Could it work for somebody? Yes. So what ended up happening was, I tell people all the time, my therapist became my college professor, right? Taught me the skills, the what to do, the what not to do, the da. My life coach became the tutorer that could keep her foot on my neck and make sure I did the work. For me to get to where I am today, that is what I needed. I needed the lesson taught, and then I needed somebody to make me do the work of the lesson that was being taught. And so they were in communication with each other, which was good for me too, because it held me accountable. Because I couldn't go to my therapist and say, yeah, I did such and such and such and such and such. Because she done already talked to my life coach and was like, Arica ain't did nothing. Right? Vice versa. I couldn't go to my life coach and say, oh no, she didn't give me nothing new to work on. Knowing good and well, she just gave me a whole list of 10 steps for the next week, right? And so it kept me accountable, and I needed that. I needed that strong force behind me. The other part of that was I had a praying mama in the background. Every day I went to therapy. Every day I had a therapy session. Every time I had a life coach session, she would call me. Let's pray. Because I want you to be clear. I want you to receive what God has for you. We don't want nothing blocking what God is trying to do. Every single time. So when you talk about a 3-strand cord that cannot be broken between my therapist, my life coach, and my mama, God was like, oh, we gonna get you right.
Now, were you and your mom close as you were at the end of her life before this happened? Like, but before you told her about your abuse, were you close then?
Oh, yes.
You were still close then?
We always, like I said, she was my ace in the hole. Probably, I'm going to say from the day I came out the womb. I was her miracle baby. She had a miscarriage, and then my brother, who would have been named Eric, was stillborn. So I was her miracle baby. So I believe from the womb, I was my mama's everything, and she was mine.
Make sure everything. Wow. So you go through your healing, get your life coach, and are you still working with that life coach now?
When I'm having moments.
When you're having moments.
I'm still connected to my therapist too. Hey, your girl tripping. Yep, we need a session.
And would you say that because of those life coach sessions, this was born? Is that where this came from as a result? This is your proof?
Because one of the things that we worked on through is how do we get what I've been feeling out? for me, writing became my way of escape because I could write for hours and I could literally detach myself.
Yes.
Right. And so that is where that book was birthed from. And that's also how I became a published author in the urban fiction romance space because I would take all that trauma and stuff that I went through, the stuff I went through in relationships and stuff, and I started writing these urban fiction stories. And then I ended up going into the self-help space after I went through my transformation. Well, let me give you 7 steps of how I did this. And you know what I'm saying? And so now I have about 22 books deep now, I think.
You got your other one too. So many, I can only gather 2 for today, but yes, absolutely. And they're both masterpieces. Absolutely. Now, wrapping up here, tell me about finding your confidence through pageantry.
So, as I was saying, one of the first outlets was writing. And then she was like, okay, let's look and explore some other things. What other things can be an outlet for you? And da-da-da. And I really hadn't really looked at each other. And so what ended up happening was in 2018, I was in a really bad car accident and it stopped my life. Like I was the go out party girl. I was the always active, work out, the whole night. I couldn't do nothing. My body, I'm still suffering repercussions from that car accident, right? And I got into a depression. And I don't know if anybody's ever been so depressed, but you don't know you're depressed, but other people around you know you're depressed. And my mama, she was like, she ain't right. She off. This ain't working for me. And she ended up finding out about the Miss Plus America pageant system. And she called me and she said, I want you to go take a look at this, see what you think. I really think this would be really good for you. And it would just help you deal with, being in the accident and blah, 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 and you just, she's giving me all these words. Well, if anybody's mama is like my mama, when she strongly suggested, that was her way of saying, you're going to do this, whether you want to or not, ma'am. Okay. And so I ended up doing the research, finding about what this pageant system was about. I think the last pageant or whatever I had ever been in was when I was a little girl and I won first runner-up in the Miss La Petite pageant. But other than that, that was the furthest thing from my mind. And I ended up signing up for this particular pageant system. And I just got bit because it brought a new element of life to me that took me to another level. So now I'm writing. Now I'm stepping into pageantry. But because I had never done pageants before, I didn't know nothing about walking on a stage. I didn't know nothing about any of those things, right? Walking on a stage, how to pose, nothing. And another friend of mine who was a model was like, why don't you come walk in a fashion show with me? So the pageantry and the modeling kind of happened at the same time. I got bit by the love for both of them at the same time. But it's also my other 2 forms of working through trauma, working through stress, working when I'm having a moment or whatever, honey, I will get up just as fast as I can, see who's doing a TFP photo shoot somewhere, be like, can I come shoot with you? All right, let me get cute. Let me get it. Boom, when I'm in front of the camera, click, click, click. And by the time I'm through, whatever was bothering me ain't bothering me no more or whatever. And so these have become staples in my journey. They have helped me in my processes.
What a constructive way to heal. And I think that kind of is a true testament of where when healing is so good, it allows you to unlock and unveil new higher heights and deeper depths within yourself as a person.
Definitely.
And then the final closing of our interview today, honoring your brother and the nonprofit, honoring your mom and your brother, actually. Talk about what you're doing with the King Strut.
So before my mom passed, she said two very important key things to me that I carry with me every day. Number one, God's timing is perfect. And number two, you carry on the legacy, but the way God gives it to you. Right? And I come to find out my mom wanted me to take over her ministry, which was His Healing Hands, which was a ministry. Now, see, when I say this, you go understand, which was a ministry that deals with women who have experienced trauma. Right? Hello. Number one fan. So she wanted me to take this over. And so for the last 3 years, I sat on it. And February of this year, I finally pushed the button. And I reincorporated her ministry under the name His Healing Hands Kingdom Outreach. And it is my way of carrying on her legacy, but the way that God chose me. So I am still reaching out and I am still embracing women who have been through trauma. And for me, trauma does not stop at sexual abuse. It could be mental trauma. It could be because they've had physical trauma in their body. It could be because they lost a job. It could be because they were married for 38 years and one day their husband walked in and said, I'm done, and walked out of their life. But it's not just about where I kind of shifted. It's not just about the women. I want to embrace the men, because sometimes we as women go to these retreats, we go to these conferences, we go to these things, and we come back and we're fired up and our men are dying at home. But what happens if you are part of a ministry where you can go get fired up, but there's something for your man to get fired up too? And then y'all come back together in the home? Or you can go get fired up and your sons can go get fired up and then y'all come back together. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I made it Kingdom Outreach, because it's about the kingdom. Yes, my primary focus, of course, is women, but I am not negating the men. And so I was like, how do I begin to bring that into happening within the cover of His Healing Hands Kingdom Outreach? And when I tell you, I'm just beginning the process of grieving my brother. God said, here it is. This is what I need you to do. And He gave me King Strut, Walking His Legacy fashion show. It is a fundraiser fashion show to raise funds for the Lewis Quinn Scholarship that will be awarded to 5 African-American young men who are pursuing a degree in either STEM, nonprofit organization, social work / social justice, education, or music.
Wow. And I want to not bring the energy down, but I don't want to ignore your recent cancer scare. Talk about that, because I know you had mentioned that to me recently.
Like I said, I've been dealing with this fallout from this accident, and it's just been one thing after another after another. And so I ended up getting in with my pain doctor, and actually she was like, have you ever had a bone scan done? And I said, no. She said, we need to get you a bone scan and we need to do a nerve test. Well, the nerve test came back that I had neuropathy. Well, generally when you have neuropathy, it's because you're a diabetic. I am not a diabetic. So, okay, now we got to research, because why do you have neuropathy? Because the normal signs of why you should have that, you don't have it. And so she ended up sending me in for a bone scan. When we got the bone scan back, there's a lesion on my spine. So that led me to going to Tennessee Oncology. And
need some water?
Yes, please. That ended up taking me to Tennessee Oncology. Oncology is cancer. And so I had to go and get a biopsy done on the lesion. And you talk about the most scary 5 days of my life waiting for that report to come back. But the crazy thing is as scared as I was, as scared as I was, again, because of what I've already been through, I was like, you gonna handle this one too. And we just gonna adapt. And so in my mind, I had already started the process of, okay, if it comes back that this is what it is, this, we're gonna get this in line. We're gonna da. Now here's the thing. Thank God it came back that it was benign and I do not have cancer.
Yes.
Right? But I'm still getting this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I say this to say, when you have a scare, when you have a trauma, when you have a moment in your life, if it causes you to shift for the good, just because it doesn't pan out to be that terrible thing, keep shifting for good. Don't change your shift. Shift for the good, because that's only going to make you stronger and better as a person and just in life as in general. So that's why I had to get this nonprofit off the ground. That's why. So that scare made me shift into doing the things that you see me doing now.
And that's what I said at the beginning of our interview, pivot. And don't think that you have all the time in the world, because the time you have is only the time that you had yesterday. So you got to keep going.
Yep,
absolutely.
Exactly.
And before we get out of here, Arica, please share with everyone where they can support you. You know my name, but not my story.
As far as my books are concerned, I am on Amazon. You can find me either under my name, Arica P. Quinn, or you can find me under my pen name, which was given to me by my dad, which is Ariqui. It's Ariqui. It's the first 3 letters of my first name and the first 3 letters of my last name. And so you can find me under Amazon.
Well said. Arica, thank you again for being a part of the SHAPE campaign. You are so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story with me. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for watching. We'll see you later. Think you've got what it takes to be featured on our next season of the SHAPE campaign? Well, submit your photo to raquezrouse.com. We'll see you later.
SHAPE. Stay tuned for our next episode.